Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Emerald Veil podcast with Allie and Mandy. We are intuitives, healers, and spiritual teachers. And we're just here to make spirituality relatable and down to earth and fun, right?
Yes, you got it.
So today we are going to be talking about our readings, so our soul readings that are, kind of like talking, because we've noticed that it's not just like a psychic reading, it's kind of very much connected to the soul and the higher self of somebody. And that's just how we've been guided. And so we're kind of wanting to just talk about what that looks like. What else?
Well, we're also going to be changing a little bit for the spring and the summer. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And we're going to micro chat.
Yay! All right, go for it. Lead it off, Mandy.
Okay.
Because you had said I'm gonna lead the conversation.
Oh yeah, because I wrote down some little points.
Yeah. Mandy's like,
okay, so let's talk a little bit about what our soul guidance readings are, because they are so much different. I don't want to say more, but they're different than a psychic reading. Yeah. So if you're coming to us and you're looking for guidance, I think that would be like what we do best. The psychic, the future predictions, we tend not to do as much. Did you say?
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know, because I'm just thinking when we would seek guidance before going down this path, yeah, it was kind of more of that future predicting. Like if you booked a reading, wasn't it typically because you're like, ooh, am I going to change my job? Am I going to meet somebody? Am I going to get married? Type of thing.
Well, that was how we used to do, like when we went to a psychic, like our trusted psychic Tammy, we used to go to her all the time for what is my career going to look like in the next year? Like, am I on the right path, or what's happening in my marriage, or am I going to get pregnant? Like there's these things that you wanted to know. And there's something to be said about having a psychic type of reading for that, because it can give you permission, in a sense to, or it almost gives you, I guess, a sense of confidence to move forward with those things. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, absolutely. And we're curious beings. We want to know all the things, and we still do want to know all the things. And I think that's something through spirituality that we've learned, is that we're not meant to know all the things. And I did not have that concept before learning all of this. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, certain things we're just not supposed to know. But, I guess with our soul energy readings, what we have kind of found is the soul and the higher self comes through a lot. And it seems to be very much like, if we're talking to the other side is kind of like high level. They don't get kind of entrenched into the human things that we see as big. And it's more of this high level of okay, don't get yourself all caught up on this one little relationship or something like that. Let's look at the bigger picture here. How can you as a soul or as a person, do all these higher level things? And we're like, oh, I don't care about that. I just care about my human life.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, so I think then what we were seeing is the soul would come through the higher self, and the messages we were getting was very much connected to the soul and the higher purpose of that person's life, it's not juvenile, because it's that's our lives.
Well, it's almost like there's more depth. So when we say when we're going to a psychic for future predictions, there's nothing wrong with that. But it is just there's this layer. It's the first layer, because I don't want to say it's surface level, but it is the surface layer of what it is that you're asking about. Because when because when you're asking about something, say you're asking about having children or getting pregnant, there's so much depth to that question that that can be accessed through a reading, but sometimes the sitter, so the person asking, isn't quite ready to hear all of that depth, right? So when we do a soul reading with us, for example, we tend to connect to the higher self more often, to receive that depth and that insight. And usually when there's depth, there's layers of healing that needs to be moved through as well in order to be able to achieve what the outcome that you're desiring.
Asking for.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's like hard, because it's not just a yes or no, or it's not straight answer in that sense. Like I always find with spirit, it's never truly a straight answer. And so, you know, when you're as an intuitive delivering this, and it's like, okay, let's just go off with the, am I gonna get pregnant? Like, when am I gonna get pregnant? Like, what's this gonna happen? Because of course, as humans, we want to know these things. Like these are big things for our human incarnation, for our human lives. And then all of a sudden, you know, like say we go in and we're connecting to it, and it's like, well, it depends. Like they kind of like, well, it depends. Are they going to, they need to do this, this, and this. And sometimes it's like the healing part to vibrationally be able to carry the baby. And when you have to deliver that as an intuitive, you're kind of like sitting there going like, and they're, you know, the client's kind of like, well, just tell me yes or no. And it's like, well, there's free will. And if you were to do this and this and this, then it could happen faster. And as a human, we're kind of like sitting there going like, what? Like, I just want to do it. Like, why do I have to do all these other things to just get this done?
And there's lots of intuitives out there that will give you those answers, and that yes, you can get pregnant, or yes, you will get pregnant, and this is when I see it happening. But I guess with the way that we structure our readings, you're going to get that depth, and you're going to get that insight to the healing and the work that, you know, spirit is actually asking you to do in order to achieve that. So you can have that insight to maybe expedite that process or align with that path a little bit sooner, or anchor that path in a little bit deeper, because we can do the same and say, yes, we see that there's a spirit baby with you. We see that there is a chance for you to get pregnant. Absolutely. However, there could be so many things within that journey that could be trials and tribulations and difficulties, or it could be really smooth and seamless. If there's lessons and things that you're tying up from past lives, like there's so much that could be involved in that.
I'm just thinking of a good example. I had a client that, you know, is about dating, looking at dating and stuff, and you know, was going through a separation, and was really kind of like, am I gonna meet somebody like that? Of course I'm in that position now too. And it's like, of course you're like, okay, what's this next chapter look like? And what I was shown was, I was like, oh, okay, I connect, and this is through the Akashic records. I was like, you know, show me, is there a contract out there? Is there a soul contract with another being, another person being, they're gonna be human. I'm so sorry. Another soul.
Another being. Actually,
another being.
You're gonna date an alien.
My God, could you imagine if we all of us received that?
Contract with a being? Am I gonna date? What kind of being? Is it a Sasquatch? Is it an alien?
My God.
I think it's gonna be a gnome. I don't know.
With some of the readings that we've done and some of the stuff that has come to us, and we're like, how the hell do we tell the client this? Like, how are they gonna receive this? It just made me think, like, could you imagine if all of a sudden one day we receive a message like that and we're like, how the hell are we going to deliver this? God.
That would be so weird, but so cool.
I know.
Maybe it'll be you, and I'm gonna read for you and be like, actually, Allie,
oh my God,
you're gonna date a merman.
Oh my God.
You can go meet him at Langford Lake.
Oh God, he's waiting there underneath. He's gonna grab your toes.
That's how you're gonna meet.
Freak me out. He's gonna pull you under. You're gonna think you're drowning, but you're not, because he's gonna give you air. What the fuck?
He's under the dock.
Oh my God, he's under the dock. Just waiting.
Wait, we're creating nightmares.
Oh God, yeah, it's scary. Okay, carry on. So what was he saying? Oh yeah, so so I felt in to see if there was another soul contract out there for her, like the most highest aligned soul contract. And I was shown that yes, there was. That there's this soul that is kind of like waiting on the outskirts. And when we say waiting, it's not like that soul's like, okay, like when are you ready? They have no idea. But the universe will, transpire to bring you together. And so I saw this kind of higher aligned relationship that was going to come through. But they really were saying, like, for this to come through, there needed to be a lot of healing, and like raising of her vibration to be able to get to the level for this connection to happen. And I can totally see that, like, from what we've all learned and everything, like energy attracts like energy. So if you are going through like a separation or something like that, and because a lot of people know if they have healing that they need to do. People tend to know if they're avoiding something. And say you haven't done anything to work on yourself to, understand, okay, why did this relationship fail? Why did I attract this person in the first place? What's kind of going on?
Is there a pattern here that I need to look at?
Absolutely. And what can I do to like recognize and change this so I don't do this again? And I think all of us can relate to having relationships that you're like, okay, like I don't want to do this again. We learn from every relationship we've had. It builds off of each other. And so I remember, kind of like saying like, yep, there's this person, it's just highest aligned. And, if you go through this like healing journey and really kind of connect to yourself, like then this person will appear. And this was hard for her to understand because she was currently in a relationship with somebody that she was really smitten with. And for what I had received, that wasn't it. That wasn't the highest, most aligned contract waiting for her. And it was kind of like this, like, well, I don't want to believe that because this person, and sure enough, I know, things are starting to unravel, or it's starting to kind of like fall apart, or it's not as nice as she wanted. And that's because like energy attracts like energy. And so even though it's like, yes, you're going to meet somebody, sometimes there's work that we have to put into ourselves to actually get there. And through free will, if she chooses not to, which absolutely, like that's the whole point, is lessons in this lifetime. If through free will, if you're like, fuck the healing, screw that shit, then you're just going to be presented over and over with opportunities or reflections or mirrors to basically say like, we need to heal something, because it's going to attract, and that contract will just possibly not come to fruition in this lifetime, type of thing. But I just, very interesting, because like sometimes I wish as an intuitive I could just be like, yeah, there's this guy, yeah, like I can see him in the thing, and that's it.
Well, we could do that.
I guess we could.
Yeah.
But we can't. Because we see the depth of it. We see the layers of it.
We receive the depth and the layers. And what part of our job as intuitives is to share what spirit is bringing to us, like within the readings. And if we were to withhold, that type of opportunity to be aware of the healing, then we might be withholding the opportunity for our client to be able to, take that journey.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one, because I definitely see how sometimes people just don't want to hear it.
Well, they don't want to, yeah. They don't want to hear it because it hurts. And, I don't know, sometimes our readings can be tough love a little bit, because we receive both sides of it. We receive the duality, like we receive the light part, at the light aspects, the love, the potential, what's coming, but we also the exciting, but we also receive the shadow side of it, the work that needs to be done in order to receive what it is that you're calling in, or what it is that you're wanting to align with. We see that path, and we see the process and what needs to happen, and specifically like what what types of healings can be done and that sort of stuff, which again brings us back to the whole point as to why we teach what we teach. Because when you can empower yourself with these skills, you can do this work for yourself to make sure you are aligning with your highest path.
Absolutely. You know, I know for myself with, you know, being in the position now where it's kind of like, you know, am I gonna find somebody? Blah, 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 blah. You know, because I know all of this background stuff, because I know energy, because I know how to work with it. I 100% am like, I know what I need to do to be able to get there. And what an asset to have, because if I had gone through this and I didn't have any of this knowledge or even the tools to work through it, you know, I would be 100% avoiding the healing. I know that, because healing's hard, and kind of putting my head in the sand, or, you know, doing the things like that make me distracted and all of that. But instead I'm like sitting here going like, no, I want something different for myself. So I know that, okay, this is what I need to start working on, some of the shadows that are within me, some of my self-worth. Because if I don't think I'm worthy, how am I attracting somebody that thinks I'm worthy? You can't. And then even with the healing part of it, you know, like being able to know energy and how you can like understand, like doing a cord cutting. I did a cord cutting last night for myself, you know, being able to disconnect energetic cords to people in your life is so freaking useful. So being able to have those tools and know how to work with it is amazing. Being able to understand energy is allowing you to understand manifestation, right? Because you're using energy. Manifestation is energy. That's what it is. So
yeah, and even bringing that into like, because a lot of people come for soul reading asking about like love, about family, about career. So even tying this conversation into like career, and how to manifest or how to grow or how to expand and stuff like that. And that's something that we're learning through experiencing as well. And we work with energy, we know how to shift energy, we connect to energy, we can read energy, like we do all the things with energy, the akashic records, all that sort of stuff. But there's still a process of healing that we're doing on our own individual timelines on an individual basis that ties into our business. So, and then our business has to be in that frequency to be able to align with the type of expansion that we want to bring in or receive, and the type of clientele that we would like to work with, and all that sort of stuff. So that there is a whole process and a whole journey with it. So I think even honoring and respecting the journey that you're on, and understanding that it isn't like you know, it isn't a quick fix. It's something that will take some time, and something that you should, you know, be careful with regard to your time. And I think for myself, even you know, so many times getting frustrated with like so many things on this journey, and you know, with regard to timing, and really coming full circle, and understanding that it's all aligned with the exact timing that's supposed to be at. So
yeah, and that kind of like in that sense takes the pressure away, where you don't have to sit there and be like, oh my God, is it not happening? Did I miss the cue? What do I need to do? All of those things.
Or even, am I prolonging this process because I'm not doing the healing?
Yeah.
Which you are.
Which I'm prolonging
it. Oh. Which people can do. Like that can be a thing, right? Like if you avoid the shadows or the things that you don't want to look at, and the longer you avoid it, the longer it's going to take for you to receive what it is that you want to receive, right?
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to oh God, I listen to too many things on Instagram. I follow all these like inspirational people, whether it's to do with love and divorce, whether it's to do with self-worth, all of things. So I don't know who it is.
Somebody.
It was somebody, but it was very interesting because she was talking about you know, taking the leap. So like being an entrepreneur and taking that jump, and how it's like, you know, obviously there's an aspect of that. There's an aspect of taking the leap, trusting the process, believing in it. This is part of manifestation and stuff. But what she kind of took it back was like, yes, there is that process, but you can't do it without setting up these other things, like there's other layers to that before taking the leap. So you know, like if you take the leap but you haven't done any of the healing or any of the prep work in the background, you're going to take the leap and have to leap back and go and do that. And it really, like, that really stood out to me because I know, you know, I've seen different people that have, you know, taken the leap, had that courage, you know, left their job and jumped into this entrepreneurship, and it didn't work out. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, what the hell? I like, they did the leap, they did the thing. Like, you and I have heard that so many times. They had the courage, they're following what their soul is meant to do in this lifetime, and you didn't show up. And this person, like how she had said this, and I was like, oh shit, it's because they didn't do the parts that help bring their frequency, their vibration in alignment for that. So it was kind of like they just skipped over. You can't skip over the steps. They skipped over that healing, that, you know, working out those things, and then they had to go back and do it. And so yeah, like that's a big part of it. And I guess, you know, when you say about the light and the shadow, like with the readings, and it's like the shadow part is 100% a huge part of any manifestation, anything moving forward, really.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that people understand, like when we say shadow, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Like the shadow, people talk about shadow work and they talk about, you know, the duality of the light and the dark, and that there's darkness, and that darkness is heavy and dense and all these things. And sure, there's aspects to the shadow where it could feel heavy or dark or whatever, but also understanding that working with the shadow, because we are always going to have duality when we're in this life. Like this planet is duality. Like there's the light and the dark everywhere in every aspect of anything. So being able to embrace the shadow and bringing light to it so that you can understand it without the fear and without that, and then without the avoidance. Because when you can really start, I guess it's almost like the yin and the yang, right? When you got to work together, you got to ribbon it together, you got to embrace both aspects of yourself.
Absolutely. And like shadow work can be as small as, you know, like a money wound, or a limiting belief. You know, something like, oh man, like I can't ever be self-employed because, you know, I have the limiting belief that self-employment,
I need a pension.
Yeah, like I have to have all these, so it could be like these small little things that are ingrained in holding you back because of the mindset of that. Or it can be big things like, you know, maybe there is a trauma in your past that you know, got through, and to get through it, you needed to shut down, or you needed to push it aside to be able to keep moving forward. But, you know, recognizing that at some point you need to kind of go back and revisit it, so that you can release it, because it is creating an energetic block for something, or it's creating an energetic block that then keeps you in a loop of self-worth issues and trust issues and all of these things. So, you know, shadows is like a multitude of different things. My current shadows that I'm working on, okay, you guys got a list? It feels like
but it feels like that was me last year.
I know, I'm so bloody annoyed. I don't even know what to start with. Like that's where I keep feeling like I'm like, oh God, I need to start here. No, but I need to do this. And I'm like, where do I go?
Yeah, where
do I begin? But I'm like, you know, there's a part of me that's like wanting to do the shadow work on my self-worth, because I know that that is part of how I'm going to show up for a partner later. So I know all of that, like I need to learn to love myself, or I need to have self-worth within myself so that I can attract somebody that the type of person that I'm wanting. So that's important for me to kind of like understand and look at all of those little baby nuances of self-worth, because there's many of them, whether that's body image, whether that's just worthiness, whether that's the inner child, like, you know, something that you believed and got anchored into your brain at a young age, and now it's like, oh wait a minute, that's holding me back, to, you know, shadow work with money wounds that I'm understanding, the safety, the security of money, having this like mindset or this feeling like the axe is always going to fall, like like I just have this mindset that I'm always just getting by, and that it always needs to be a struggle or whatever it is. And that's a shadow where I start to realize, oh, wait a minute, this could be something I adopted from childhood, when I know my parents were very anxious about money in childhood, and me being an empath could have easily just plopped that into my being, and that's how I view money.
Well, I feel like a lot of empaths probably have that same type of mindset, because I also, my parents, when I think all parents, when we're like, even my own kids.
Yeah.
So when my kids were young, I was anxious about money because we were barely making things meet because we were so young.
Absolutely.
So, my kids probably are going to adopt that mindset as well. Something that I now am aware of that could probably help them shift.
I know.
But, it kind of is like a generational thing. Like my parents were like that, and
their parents were like that.
So it is all about those programs and those limiting beliefs and stuff like that. But there's lots of work that we could be doing around so many different aspects. But if you asked a question, you're like, where do I even begin? And the first thing that popped in my mind was begin with where you're at. Whatever it is in this moment, in this day, in this week that you're going through, that's where you begin.
Yeah.
Because it can get overwhelming with like, oh my God, self-worth or money mindset or whatever.
Well, it's like work with your root, work with your solar plexus, work with your heart, right? Because that's where I feel like I'm like being pulled in all these different directions. Like there's a
inner
part
child.
of the inner child, and I'm like, everybody screw off, get out of here. But it's like, okay, no, I want to work on my root for our business in that sense, right? Because again, like our individual belief systems and energy is going to create and manifest into the business. So there's like that responsibility where it's kind of like, oh no, I want to work on that, blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time, I'm also like dealing personally with, having my ex dating somebody, that taking its toll, on my self-worth or worthiness, and
really highlighting that.
It's really, so it's really highlighting it. So I'm like, okay, like you're making it loud. I don't like feeling that way. So there's like that urgency to be like, okay, fine, like let's work on it. And so that's where I'm like, it's very two important things. And there's so much, out there to do. But I think that the biggest thing is like the fact that having the awareness that I know it needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like I know that needs to be done if I want to manifest in my world what I want to manifest. And so I think when it comes back to our readings, that's a big part of us going that deeper in those different layers, and bringing up the healing, is because we know, or we're being shown, that this is what you need if you want to manifest or get these things, or if you want to live your most aligned path. And I kind of feel like spirit, when we are doing these readings, that's what spirit is stepping in and giving us. And all we can do as channels is deliver what spirit is giving us. And they have chosen to give, the bigger picture type of thing, the soul version, the higher self version. And we just have to like honor that. And for sure there's times that we're delivering a reading, and we're like, our humans are like, ooh, I'm sorry.
Well, sometimes it feels like there's like if you're okay, so when we read for somebody who is just really starting out on this path and they haven't really done a lot of like it's like brand new, the spirituality, and they haven't done a lot of their own work yet, it feels like every chakra that we connect to and everything that we receive in the akashic records, like it's a whole lot of like, this is how this feels, however, and this is the message, and this is what they'd like you to do. And so there's usually a lot of like takeaway homework for these clients. And then we have, the clients that have been on this path for a little while and they have been doing this journey. So then there's not as many chakras or as many energy centers that have those types of messages, and it is more of a almost like, okay, like you're ready to develop your intuition, because you've been already doing a lot of the work. So now it's kind of it's almost like a pivotal point where they're going to point them into a different direction of like, now you're ready to walk a parallel path of healing and of intuitive development. Or, and not necessarily like I want to do readings for other people, but connecting to your, like, understanding how their intuition is speaking to them, understanding how their spirit guides are connecting to them, understanding how to access the akashic records for their own support and their own healing, and then even understanding how to do energy work and energy healing. So like, because the work that we do doesn't necessarily have to be done for other people. If you want to keep it for yourself and for your family, that's exactly what it's meant for, first of all, right?
Absolutely.
And then we have the clients who are doing this type of work, the same type of work that we're doing, and it's just a different type of reading where, you know, they might have something specific, or it's like very, very specific, like your inner child really wants to connect with you in your root chakra. Do a meditation, and then we have very specific guidance for them, like go into meditation, do a root chakra meditation, connect with your inner child, and then they want you to go into your solar plexus, then into your heart. Like there's very specific guidance on that, but it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating to be able to read energy and to be able to receive those messages and to work with higher selves and help people like pivot their lives, or just shift things in their lives so that they can align, if they choose to, with the healing path or the more aligned path.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we definitely can feel the energy that if a spirit guide or a higher self, like if your soul is speaking to us, right? Because like, yes, you are your soul, but we have the human amnesia. So your higher self is able to fully see what's going on. And sometimes when we connect, they come across frustrated and like, where we're like, okay, like it's kind of like, okay, like we need this and this and this and this and this. And, as the readers, we have to really, take a step back and kind of be like, okay, how can we deliver this not in that energy?
Well, there's usually, sometimes there can be frustration, but also a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
What I've learned with spirit is like, they will give you that sense of urgency, because when we're reading somebody's energy, we were talking about this in class last night with our students, like when you're in the akashic records reading for somebody, or when you're in their energy and you can feel that message. So you're not only just receiving the words and the image of the message, but you're feeling the emotion of that message. So it's really hard to portray that or like that sense, like we can say it's urgent, or like we can feel that sense of urgency. So we have to be really careful about how we share that message, because also their sense of urgency can be so different than our sense of urgency.
Well, because there's no time and space. And so, we've experienced that with our own spirit guides. Like I know there's times with H, that I'm like, okay, I got it. When it was regarding my marriage, and I kept getting signs and they're getting louder. And I just remember at one point being, I got it, but I have to do what I need to do on this side.
There's
so
a
like
process here.
Yeah, there's a process here. And so, on the other side, because again, on the other side, this is just such a small blip in our infinite lives.
No big deal to them.
It's no big deal, right? And it's like, and I get it. Like if I wasn't here right now and I was over on the other side, you would look at certain things and be like, dude, why are you getting all hung up about that? Remember, this is literally just a play. And so I totally get how that feeling can come through and maybe be missed, in that translation, where it's like, on the other side, they need to realize, okay, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard here. So give us some grace.
Yeah. Give us some grace
and
here.
patience. Gosh. Jeez, get out of here. I know. I actually invited H into my cord cutting last night, because that's what I was being guided to do, and had him remove the energetic cord, and he was actually very kind.
Well, that's a new side.
I know, because at first I was like, because I was doing a guided meditation, and when they said, okay, bring your highest, most highest aligned like guide or whatever to come through, and I was like, and I'm crying at this point, and I'm like, okay, H, come through. And then part of me was like, I don't know if I want him here, because I was like, I'm crying and I'm upset right now. And you better not come in to be like, what are you upset about? It's not a big deal. And so, but then it was just like, that's the only person I could think of to come in to do it. And he came in very kind and was very, yes. So I was like, thank you, H, because I would have lost it.
Even more.
Even more on him. I would be like, you're a jerk.
You're a jerk. It's so funny.
I know.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, okay, I guess we should talk a bit of the way we structure our readings.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, no, you go for it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't want to talk the whole time.
Well, okay, if you've ever had a reading with us, then we share this when we connect with you over Zoom. So typically what we would do is you would book a reading, we would meet over Zoom. We will have already done the reading because Ali and I really love to connect to your energy before we meet in person, like, or over Zoom, because we find that, again, we can receive so much more depth if we're taking our time to connect to the energy. We get to go to the akashic records, we get to call in your higher self, your spirit guides, our guides, like all these different things. So if we have a little bit more time to connect to your guides. So honestly, our readings, although we're meeting with you for an hour over Zoom to present the reading, usually we're in your energy for at least an hour preparing the reading too. So that's why our readings are priced where they're at, is because it is like 2 to 2.5 hours altogether of connecting with you. Yeah. Right. But with that comes so much depth. So yeah. So we pull your energy forward. So we go into meditation. And then what we do is there's a connection ritual that we do and that we teach our students, because it's just a very safe way. There's a safe way to connect and there's a safe way to disconnect. So you connect and then we pull your energy into our meditation. And then we usually see your higher self join us and your spirit guides join us. And then we go through your energy. So your chakras, we always connect to your chakras, see if there's any chakras that are pointing out or highlighting to us that we need to read into, because every chakra is connected to a different area. So for example, our solar plexus is our self-worth and our confidence. Our throat chakra is our communication, our speaking our truth, living authentically. Our root chakra is our safety, security, finances. So again, these are things that we go through and we receive guidance from. So we get a good sense of where you're at energetically. And usually what we share is things that resonate because it's in your energy already, right? We're not connecting to your energy in the future. We're not connecting to your energy from like 10 years ago. We're connecting to your energy in the moment. So like, for example, like if say we go into the throat chakra, and sometimes we'll go into the throat chakra and we'll feel like it's very sharp, or there's sharp edges, or something, and it kind of is like, I'm like, it feels like maybe this person has like a sharp tongue, where they just kind of like sometimes can like lash out. And we've then gone like, that's hard to say to a client, yeah, that's what I feel. And I've never had it where somebody's been like, no, that's not me at all. It's like, yeah. But then on the other side, it can feel very smooth, like connecting to like the energy of water in the throat chakra, and it's just like a smooth, like the lake that's just crystal clear and there's no ripples or anything. But that also could be too sensitive, like you maybe don't speak up as much, right? But then you could see one that's kind of like wavy or whatever. So there's different ways that we connect to the message that we're receiving in the chakras. Like no boundaries, and the message there is like, really like being able to speak your truth and all that stuff. And that's, I guess that's the amazing thing, is like we're saying things that you already know, but spirit's bringing it up for a reason. There's like guidance around that. So in a sense, it's like they're giving the validation of like, I'm connecting to you, like I know who you are, type of thing. And then, giving, like we always say, okay, what's the message here? What do you want to share? And then they always, give us a message of like, whether it's boundaries, saying like, I'm blocking this throat chakra so that you can speak authentically and all of these type of things. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, and it shows up. I feel like spirit at this moment, like the way that they've guided us, is bringing us clients who they really want to empower themselves. Like, somebody who's coming to us, typically there's messages for them so that they can step into their power, or they can empower themselves, or build strength in certain, like in their throat, for example, or their self-worth, or whatever, their heart, maybe, whatever it is. But even with like the way we've been guided to do our courses, like what we do is we empower others to reconnect to their authentic selves, so that they can trust their inner guidance to guide them to live a more aligned life. So when we do the readings, we are, we're receiving messages so that you can take what you've learned from us, or what you've received, and empower yourself to do the work to gain that strength in those certain areas of your life that might be weaker.
I love that. I love that. So once we kind of go through the chakras and get messages and stuff, that's when we typically then go to your akashic records, because everybody has specific questions that they ask, and we like to tend to connect to the energy and do the chakras before asking the specific questions, because it just really, I guess that's the part that we really just get really deep into your energy.
That's the depth.
And understand it, and it helps us as intuitives, because it really then it, like, by the time we usually get to the akashic records, we know the answer, so we don't even have to specifically ask it because it's come through there. But that's where then we go to the akashic records and ask very specific questions, like what's my contract relationship with this person? Why is it so hard? What am I supposed to do moving forward? What about, and my marriage is going to fall apart? Like all these things that we can go to the akashic records and find soul contracts
and paths, and there's purpose in there, there's past lives in there, there's all of the things. And a lot of times as we're going through the chakras, we'll actually connect to past lives that are popping through, connected to those specific chakras. So it's really interconnected and fascinating.
It's so cool. It's so cool. But so that's kind of what our soul readings are. We are kind of moving into this more divine feminine flow, and just listening, like going into that surrender and listening to spirit. And we're looking at, for the summer months, the more busier months, of changing our deliverance of our readings, so that they are delivered via, like, so not live, so not meeting over Zoom and giving it to you live, but recording it over Zoom and sending you a video recording. And so that kind of just gives that kind of like flow, right? Like that flexibility. And Mandy's been really taking was it feminine business school or something?
I'm working in a course, and we'll maybe have her on the podcast and share a little bit more about her. I just started working with her to really connect to the feminine flow of a business. So I hold a fear, PTSD maybe, around the masculine energy of a business because of the corporate burnout that I've experienced. So whenever things became more masculine within our business, it was like, it's too much for me. I don't want to do it. I need to like slow down. So really learning how to balance the two. And I'm finding it so beautiful and so fascinating, and it's almost giving me permission to or giving us both permission to change and shift things to make sure that they're working for us. So inviting in more feminine flow into the spring and summer months, as you and I both get very busy through these months, as everybody else experiences busyness in these months. And then what we're going to do is we still want to show up and provide readings and healings for everybody, but not in such a masculine way where we're set with a structured date and time to meet. It's going to be more of you can book a reading with us, and within 5 business days or 7 business days, whatever we decide, it'll be listed on our website. You will receive the reading through email, and it'll be like a recorded reading over Zoom, but we'll just send it to you through email so you can receive it that way. And of course, because it's not as time constrictive, like it's not as masculine, there will be a discounted price where the price will be lesser because there is more flow with it, and there isn't like the hard and fast like structure with it. So we're going to do readings and healings that way. So somebody's might be like, how do you do a healing that way? Well, energy doesn't have any boundaries. So we can connect to your energy at any time for a reading or for a healing. So if you want to book a healing, and you'd be like, you know what, I really need my energy cleansed, or my energy shifted somehow. I feel heavy, I feel anxious, like something just feels heavy, but I don't have the time to book a reading and then show up for an hour and lay there. Like I don't have time to do that. We will just do the healing for you within a period of time. So we call that a portal of completion. And then we'll send you a recording on what we did and what we received and how we shifted your energy, and send it to you again through email of some sort. So you will just be doing your day and receive a healing. You won't know when you're getting it. It'll be at some point, within a period of time. But yeah, I hope that's clear. Like, let's say you book a healing for, I don't know, May 15th. Well, you'll receive the healing and a recording of the healing, what we did, within 5 days of May 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, after May 15th.
After May 15th.
So
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And what our plan was is like, going through flow. So through the spring, summer months, doing that. And then in the fall, when we're all kind of hibernating a bit more indoors, moving back to that, interactive readings, like we usually do, because we also love that part of it. The connection. Yeah. So like connecting and talking and all of that. And so for us to, really find balance and honor ourselves and time and be able to show up. But at the same time, not have to give up on that part that we also really do love and enjoy. We love the connecting with other people and talking and working through that. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I'm excited. So we will have that all completed and finalized. We're hoping by the time this podcast is released. But if not, it will be at some point within April.
5 business days.
5 days. Our portal of completion is 7 days. But it will be changed and shifted within April. So if you're really wanting to book a reading or a healing, you can do that. It'll be I don't want to say cheaper, because that makes it sound cheaper, or discounted. It's not discounted. It will be a lesser price.
Yeah.
For this type of structure.
You're still getting the full in-depth reading, but because we're not going to be sitting there showing up face to face and having an hour of interaction together, then we're able to reduce the price to reflect that, right? So, but it's still the same in-depth reading as it is. So
same quality.
Yeah, quality control. All right, so I think that's it.
Yeah, that is it.
Champ.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in meeting your spirit guide or starting that journey of intuitive development, we do have a special offer on our Meet Your Spirit Guide course until April 8th. I think we talked about this last week, how somehow we ended up putting this course, in eclipse season and Mercury retrograde. So
I know, it's crazy. And we had some technical issues with it. So if you were trying to purchase and you couldn't pay, that was let's blame Mercury retrograde on that one, not us.
No, I'll blame somebody. I'll blame somebody else.
Somebody else, not us. So if you did do that, then please just reach out, because my goodness gracious, we've got it all figured out now. It's good. It's cool. Cool. Okay. All right, everybody. We will talk to you next time.
Bye.